Yes, sir. I just started.
Yeah.
So the webinar is on a new BE courses we offer from KS Group of Institutions, that is emerging areas of technologies. So today we are going to have a talk on this emerging areas of technologies, where we have three branches. So today's speaker, I would like to introduce Dr. P. Joy Prabhakaran is a professor in Electronics and Communication Department of KSIT and technology consultant at Tata Exi. Joy did his BTech from IIT Kanpur and his MS from Mexin Tech. He started his professional career in 1989. He has worked for various organizations, including CAD, Honeywell, Technicore, and Yahoo. He also ran his own company, Techline, for about 10 years. He has 2 patents from his work at Honeywell, 1 patent filling for his work as a consultant at TCS, and 2 that he filled as an individual inventor. He was also a part of the patent review board at Honeywell. In 2011, he moved out of a full-time career and started working towards his PhD at IIIT Bangalore. He completed his PhD in 2018. His current research is broadly in the area of image and video technologies. Thank you, sir. And we have one more speaker, Dr. Ram P. Rastagi. He is currently working as a professor in a computer science engineering department, KSIT Bangalore, and he honed up his academic skills with PhD from IIT Delhi and MTech from IISc Bangalore. As a technical advisor, he is assisting PAQS in building a cloud analytical engine in respiratory care, as well in scaling up the cloud service development prior to KSIT. At a technology startup, he mentored a new technology development using a machine learning techniques in network security and application performance monitoring. His previous engagements cover his senior positions in engineering in a various startups, technologies companies in US and in India. He is an invented speaker at IEEE workshops, FDP programs, pre-reviewers, and contributor to IEEE conferences, ACCS magazines, etc. He writes a regular for the technical journal Advanced Computing and Communications, published quarterly by ACCS under the column of Gala Gamified Approach to the Learning Algorithms. Sir, I'd like to welcome for today's session, sir.
Thank you. Joy, you can probably start over.
Good evening, everyone. Great to see you all here. I'm kind of wondering how many of these are students and how many are people who are, including our students, definitely curious about what these fields are and what we are talking about. A word about that topic of this webinar, which is on emerging technologies. Now, some of us might not consider things like AI, machine learning as emerging, and in many ways that is right. There's so much work that has happened and so much that has evolved. But then it's always the academia reacts to some of these things late. Because academia cannot change course all of a sudden. So when things take root and when things get, it's clear that things are going to become important. We get undergraduate level courses. Otherwise, it's electives and then specializations, masters, PhD. When sufficient body of work comes, it becomes an undergraduate course. So these are emerging areas, definitely, in the sense of how the academia is adapting to it in the undergraduate level. So the question becomes, why are we talking about this today? And since we come from the academic perspective, it's obvious why we are talking about this today. The 12th standard students would soon make a choice as to which branch of study they would want to go into. And all of a sudden one is seeing a few new courses which nobody has heard. Nobody has graduated from an AI/ML undergraduate program in VTU. So where does someone go to find out what this course is all about? And so that's one of the reasons. And the other reason, second reason really, is uh, keeping in view how things are changing. We at KSGI are now offering 3 of these new courses, new branches in engineering. One we started last year, so it's already been happening for 1 year. We'll be taking in our second batch of students. The other two are going to start this year, and this is our way of responding to not just the changes in technologies. It's also our way of responding to the new directives, new guidelines from VTU, from AICT, different bodies, because people have recognized that now we need undergraduate level students coming out from these disciplines. Uh, so in this webinar, we will talk about these disciplines, what these disciplines are, a little bit about what kind of work happens there. And we hope there would be questions from interested students. Some of them could be in our college already, and others maybe parents, just to kind of get a hang of what this is all about. And let's see if we can convey a picture of what's happening in these areas to you. Let's move on now. Yeah, so all this has really become possible because uh, uh, technologies has changed so much, evolved so much over the last many years. So if one of you go and ask a senior person, maybe somebody working in ISRO or defense or somewhere, what is AI? One of the things you're going to hear people say is AI is nothing new. AI is something which has existed forever, so to say, or at least 40 years, 50 years. A lot of work has happened then. So what has changed now? In many ways, what has changed is the technologies which can be used in creating solutions on AI or deep learning or any of these. So for example, uh, say 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 when I was a student, I would have to in India typically I would have to remove my shoes to enter a room where computers were kept. It was almost like entering a place of worship. Like computer is a boss, and one goes there, like somebody asking for something. To now, many of us have multiple computers at homes. Each phone we have today is such a powerful computer. So many things have changed. Or take communication. Um, 15 years back, if we had a pandemic situation like this, education would have completely stopped. 15 years back in India, what could we have done if kids could go to school? Today we have managed things, and that is because of the way communication and computers have grown. Uh, just to give you an example, the first live video streaming event happened in 1993 over the internet, and the people who are involved in that today. I mean, you read about it. They say they used up half the internet capacity. It was just one live streaming event from 1993. So that is something about the technology evolution. So all this put together, and this is computing power, communication has led to the cloud. Uh, we can move on now. The Yeah, the massive increase in storage. They say a Google data center can uses enough power to light up a small city, okay, to power a city, a data center. That's where data is stored. So that kind of things, uh, so much data, and you get onto Google, we get onto Google, we try to type something, or in browser we type something. Even before we finish typing, it seems to know what we want. So it is coming up. We type a word and it's getting filled up. So much of data has been accessed, processed, communicated, all that before we could even finish typing in what we want. So these are the technologies, and of course encryption, because without encryption, nobody can protect anything. It could be encryption in terms of your financials, which is where we see it quite often, but it could also be encryption in terms of our content. We have some content which we don't want others to access. So all that kind of thing. Now these together have made it possible for a field of AI and ML to emerge. Not just AI, ML, the data sciences, the whole gamut of things emerged because these technologies have today become available. Yeah, Ram, can we move on? Yeah, we can show the complete slide. This is our so many people say this, and we completely agree with this. The skills required in the 20th century were reading, writing, and math, and people of say my age or Ram's age, we have heard this in our school days. Reading, writing, and arithmetic. We that's what we grew up on. But our kids definitely see learning as reading, writing, and computing. The computers are such a huge part of their existence. So this kind of, we are just setting a context of uh, why academia is getting into these branches of study, and we lead you to that. Ram, let's move. Ram, maybe you can take over.
Okay. Now that computing has become an essential skill, just realize and look at why do we need computing. Anything we do today, maybe a few years ago, 3 years ago, nobody would have realized that if I go to a panwala or go to a street vendor to buy plates of idli, I'll be paying through Paytm or Google Pay or Phone Pay or whatever. Everything has become digital, and each of these involve computing. So computing has involved or touched every aspect of life today. And anytime we talk about computing, it means some kind of programming has to be done. And that is the reason CS, if you're a CS graduate, you need to know programming, you need to know how to write, develop, debug solutions. Look at any small business, and it is said that down the line few years, even every panwala, every small shop, every street corner would have its own website. And that is where the business would happen. You have his mobile app, which you deal with it. All of us would have some 50, 60 mobile apps for different errands, whether banking, whether accessing Amazon or anything we talk about. All this also requires, anytime we interact, we generate data. And any kind of future research requires data management. And that is where the focus of our new courses. If we look at the evolution of economy or the world paradigm economy changes when fire was invented, then it became steam engine, then it became the oil driven the economy. And today's internet world, everything is driven by the data. Possibly Google knows more about me than my wife or my family knows about me. So for the current generation of economy or next decade or next few years, couple of decades, data has become the new oil. In this sense, the data is going to drive economy, how the business would run. And all that would be possible only when we're able to write good programs. So why do we need programming? I mean, look at the TV ads today. Look at the Byju's or other learns. We look at the TV ad, a small child playing down with a mobile app. People are talking about teaching to the small school-going kids. Even as for the NEP, National Education Policy, we're talking about teaching computing and programming starting from class 6. So programming is going to play an important role, which is part of CS discipline, that we need to develop solutions. If we look at the way WhatsApp started or the way Twitter started, initially it was only simple text messaging. Twitter, simple text messages. Slowly they added photos, then got added videos, then the conversation, then web-based WhatsApp, and now you can do even from PC-based video conferencing, and same is for Twitter. So software continues to evolve. We need to keep building solutions. Even the kind of talk we are doing on the Zoom is possible because we have developed solutions, and to develop any solutions, we certainly need programming. Other aspect is we look at any academic engineering institute, irrespective of KS group institutions, you go to any other college, any other institute, the number of students that you find attending CS course as a discipline would be more than the total number of students attending all other courses together. And that is because there is a demand. As an analogy, I can say, why do people rob banks? It's not because it is easy to attack the banks, but because that is where the money is. So people flock to CS as a discipline because that is where the jobs are. Once you do a good CS degree course, job is pretty much guaranteed. One doesn't have to look around. And in that sense, computing has become popular. As Joyce said that VTU started, as part of VTU, KS Group started 3 new courses, namely AI/ML, that is artificial intelligence and machine learning. KSIT started that course last year in 2020. Prior to that, we had only core engineering, like computer science engineering, electronic communication engineering, mechanical, telecommunication, and so on and so forth. And starting with this year, that is 2021, we're starting one new course, which is computer science and design. And we'll talk about little bit about these courses, what this course contains, and how they are different. Another course in our another college called KS School of Engineering and Management, we're starting a new discipline called artificial intelligence and data science. How do these courses kind of overlap? All of them are perceived to be part of CS. So where is the overlap? So if we look at a big picture, assuming the whole domain is computer science, so AI would be treated as kind of some subset. Like Joyce said, if you talk to senior people who work in ISRO anywhere else, AI has been worked upon last 50 plus years. But AI became feasible or usable for a common person last decade or so because AI requires huge amount of computing, and computing became available, cheap and easy computing became available only over a last decade or so. And hence, the AI became a separate field. Now within AI, we have a separate divisions. One is called machine learning. When we deal with large number of data, you want to build algorithms. You would like machine to understand what the algorithm to be used. And given the data, if you look at the typical computing, it is we run the program, get the output. Here, when you're talking of ML, you get the data, and as a result of computation, you basically get the algorithm, and that is what machine learning is about. Another discipline, data science. Every activity we do today results in some kind of transaction, and recording of the transaction is basically data. How do we manage, manipulate, process, clean, store, and finally analyze? That is data science. Third discipline is computer science and design. It is part of CS domain and part of outside because pure design elements is outside the CS scope, and that's why you see CSD. We'll talk a little more about that, and I would ask Joy to take over and start talking about what computer science and design is what does it contain, why it is important to think about it, and then we talk about more on AI ML and AI and data science. Joy, over to you.
So yeah, Ram has moved the slide, but the previous slide, Ram, I think you should take a copyright on that slide, on this
No,
image.
that's okay.
Yeah,
Let me know. Don't worry about
because
that.
I think not many people would be able to express it as cleanly as you have done here. Anyways, let's move on.
Yes, that's okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So yeah, so the rest of the talk we'll give an overview of on each of the course. Um, so so we in our courses, our goal really not always successful, sometimes successful, is we would like our graduates to be problem solvers, not degree holders. So that's a perspective, we not just degree holders, that's a perspective we would like to bring in. We would like our bring in more aspects of experimentation, inquiring, have an open mind. So these are a few of the things which we would bring into each of these courses, uh, and then we will. We are always open to questions. If you have any questions, just raise your hand, and um, on Zoom, you raise your hand only, right?
No, you can chat also. The
Yeah.
chat box as
Yeah,
well.
you can put up a question and we'll take it. We have a set of AI/ML related AI/ML design, and each of these areas, data sciences. For us, in some ways, we just call it AI/ML, and it encompasses everything. But yeah, we have some work that we do in KSGI, which we would share, time permitting. But if there are questions, most welcome. So any questions now, or shall we move on?
There are no questions. Let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on. Sunil, if you see any questions, you just
No, sir, in the chat box, there's no any questions that come, sir.
Fine. If it comes up, you just interrupt us.
Yes, sir, surely I'll leave.
So, yeah. So you'd see in the three courses that we are talking about, there's quite an large overlap with the CS curriculum. Many of the subjects are the same, and that's how it has to be, because uh, the underlying things are more or less the same. Everyone needs to learn programming. Everyone needs to learn something about computers, something about communication, something about data structures, data handling. So that would be algorithms. Those would be common to all these courses. In CSD, and we actually helped VTU formulate the syllabus for this. Both Ram and I were involved in the VTU syllabus formation. So our focus, when we try to, both when we try to formulate the syllabus and also when we are going to be conducting these programs, are there are two aspects of design which are getting added onto computer science. One is the creative design, which is much more important than many of us have really come to realize. And in the next slide, we will give you an example of what we're talking about. And the second is, of course, engineering design as applicable to computer science, which is a little bit more traditional, but to make it a rounded course, that's what has happened. Computer science and design has brought in more focus onto creative design, and some added focus onto engineering design than the traditional CS course. Okay, let's move on now. So design really became such a design really became such a big thing, at least in the public space, and the usage of the word design in the engineering community really changed so much, in my opinion, with Apple, and particularly Apple's second coming, which started with things like iMac and iPod, but then this is a big example of when, even in the engineering community now, if you say design, one is not sure whether we are talking about engineering design or we are talking about the creative design. And this is an example of and a reason why this changed so much. Now, I think most of us would know there were these huge courtroom battles running into billions and billions of dollars worth of claims and awards also between Apple and Samsung. The crux of there were many issues, but in some ways, this image kind of it's a simplistic picture. But here is what Apple claims. This the image on the top right uh, um, is the Apple iPhone, which came out in 2007. And to its left, we see all the Samsung phones or some of the Samsung phones before the iPhone came into the market. Okay, and then on the lower half, lower panel, the right side phones are the Samsung phones which came up after iPhone came into the market. And a big part of the cases where the lawsuits were on whether Samsung copied the Apple design, right? Now, I really don't have an opinion one way or the other. I can't judge. Each of us can have an opinion. But the question is this: did they copy? And is it such a big thing that companies like Apple and Samsung should go to war over whether the design was copied? So there were various things, including one of the aspects that were debated in the court was you see the curvature on the phone's edges, corners, curved corners on the bottom panel. Yeah, iPhone and also the bottom panel, Samsung phones towards the later part. Uh, they all have curved corners,
Yeah.
while the earlier phones didn't have curved corners. And Apple says Samsung copied it from them. Okay? And these things, in some ways, um, one wonders why the iPhone is so successful. Of course, it's excellent engineering, but Apple itself propagates it as success of its design, right? And this design today has become critical. It is permeated so much into engineering, software. Like old timers like us sometimes find it difficult to compare. Uh, uh, like Sunil mentioned, I consult with Tata Elxsi, so we do work for so things like many of the TV or over the top OTT programs that you see, like say Sony Live or things like that. We are seeing that the creative design comes first before engineering. They come out with the screens. The screen should look like this. Now the engineers go figure how you're going to do it. So it's almost become design-led engineering, where what the end user is going to get is what we are going to be bothered about. The rest is engineers do it, and that is why we are having this course on computer science and design. It's become so important. Okay. Yeah, Ram, we can move on.
I'm enjoyed to continue from where you left. While I was PS, I took a sabbatical and joined a company called Smartron. And the focus was to design a smartphone, purely from within India. And at one time, we had only about 6 software engineers and 10 people in the design team. They look at every aspect of it. So design team was dominating. I was wondering why so much people are needed in design. And my CEO said, Ram, you don't know, that is what matters.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
We have a question.
Go ahead.
Satvik Kulkarni is asking about, I completely understood about AI/ML, but my question is, what about its syllabus? Is it same as computer science or anything left out?
I'll cover just that in a short while.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Next slide. Okay. So as Joy said, all the 3 courses, AI/ML, CSD, and AI data science, they are about 60 to 75% common in all 3 disciplines with computer science. In fact, if you look at first 4 semesters, they are same for all of the 4 disciplines. Difference starts happening only from 5th semester onwards. I mean, if I want to give you an analogy, I can basically say, let's say you want to get a degree in cooking. Now, it could be general cooking, or you want to make cooking only in rice items. Now within rice items, you can have pulao, you can have bhat, you can have biryani, you can name it, or in wheat items, you can have chapati, paratha, puri, rumali roti, you name it, all kind of things. So that's where the discipline comes in and you get more specialties. So in AI/ML, even though we have about 2/3 part common with computer science, but where the AI/ML focus is soft computing. Soft computing is a term which refers to solving problems which can't be solved by general traditional hard computing. So sometimes focus is, can you find approximate solutions, or can we find workable, usable solutions which a typical hard computing cannot do? And that is where the focus of soft computing is, and that as a subject you'll be studying as part of AI/ML. As the name says, ML, machine learning algorithms. So in CS, you'll probably do only one course, but in AI/ML, there'll be basic ML course, then there'll be advanced ML course, there'll be labs involved there, few projects, and something of that kind. There'll be good amount of focus on image processing. Today, look at, it has become key part of computing. Every phone you take today has a face recognition that involve image processing. So we study techniques, tools, and Joe will probably share some of his work, how image processing can be used significantly to identify the diseases in the eyes, which will probably share the slides few minutes down the line. As part of ML, data mining, data warehousing is very much needed. And that also will be doing in data science as well. As a virtual reality is basically three-dimensional simulation of images. So if you want to do motor driving, rather than road driving, you could be sitting in a cubicle and ensconced in kind of closed room and actually see a real road. You play real games. Those of you use, let's say, Xbox or those kind of games, you can actually play game 3D, looking at your playing 3 dimensions. So all these are niche areas, specific areas that we study with more focus in AI/ML than the basic CSE. Our next discipline is AI in data science, artificial intelligence and data science. And again, it has about 70% common with computer science. But the focus area is, the first course differs is giving you mathematical foundation of data science. And I'll just try to give you basic background where the mathematical foundation plays a role. Most of you had probably seen a magic square. Let's say in this magic square, you need to fill numbers 1, 2, up to 9, each unique number, so that sum of all rows, all column, all diagonal happens to be 15. And you might have seen that. And if you look at middle, always get the number 5. It is not just by hook and crook that you get this number 5. There's a whole mathematics behind it. And I can give a simple example. If you look at, we need to put all the numbers 1 to 9. And if you sum up all the numbers, total becomes 45. So if I were to take my numbers of 2 diagonals, then middle row, now I have covered all the 9 numbers. And out of these 9 numbers, the middle number is coming 4 times. Once counted in this diagonal, once in this diagonal, once in the middle row, one in the middle column. So that means if you look at the total sum and you're getting middle element, it basically gives you, this element is coming 4 times. 1 time comes in total is 45. So 3 times this element will basically give you 60. When you add it up, you basically get a number, and that's why you get 5. So look at the number. So there's a whole mathematics band filling up the numbers. I'll give another example there. Let's say given you a grid like this, 5 by 5. Now I ask you to, in each of the square, draw the diagonal in such a way that none of the diagonal touches each other. For example, if I draw a diagonal like this, these are non-touching diagonal. But if I draw a diagonal like this, these 2 diagonals are touching. So job for you given is, using this grid, can you draw the diagonals such that, draw 16 diagonals so that none of the diagonal touches each other. Drawing 15 diagonals is easy. You can draw all the 5 diagonals in this row, like this, 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. Middle row, if you draw the diagonals, none of the diagonals are touching each other. So easily one can draw 15 diagonals. But can we draw 16 diagonals? So suggest you try it yourself. I'll quickly give you a solution, and you can look at your drawing 16 diagonals. Now there is no hit and try method. You are basically dealing with data in the grid items, and there's whole mathematics behind it. And that is what you'll study as a first course in AI and data science. Data analytics and data visualization is one of the key components that becomes part of data science. And I'll give a few examples of why data visualization plays such an important role. We talk about few application areas. In fact, every aspect of life is impacted by data science. And we all know about social network analysis, whether Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, the WhatsApp, LinkedIn, whatever you name it. So let me give you some example of data visualization. What I show you is a famous quartet called Anscombe quartet. And this slide also differentiates why data science and data visualization so different from statistics. Here you see 4 sets of data, set 1. Then we have a set 2, set 3, and set 4. If you look at these sets, all the 4 sets have the same average value for X and Y. All the 4 of them. Sudhir, can you put them on mute, please? All the 4 sets have the same average for X and Y. They have the same variance, same standard deviation, same correlation coefficient. And if you were to draw a linear regression curve, you'll get the same linear regression curve. And that is what statistics gives you. So that means from the perspective of statistics, all of these 4 data sets are same. But actually we can see there's a big difference. And if you do the data visualization, draw the plot of X and Y. This is set 1, set 2, set 3, and set 4. It clearly highlights and shows the difference between 4 data sets. So data visualization is very, very important aspects of data science that one has to study. I'll give another example here. About almost 150 years ago, 1854, there was a cholera pandemic in city of London. And city of London had 11 pumps. You have to probably mute everybody. Sunil, can you mute others?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure.
So if we look at city of London has 11 water pumps. That was difficult, and cholera is waterborne disease. So where this is happening, and all the dots you see in this picture are places where death has occurred. Now from the visualization, one can easily see that most of the spots are sent around this central water pump. And by identifying that, all that needed was change the handle of this water pump and cholera simply got cured. So using data visualization, identifying the location does play an important role, even saying cases. And even with COVID, you can look at, I'll talk about that as well. If you look at the next data, sometimes looking at the power of data visualization, people start misusing it. And you can search for internet, graphic lights, misleading visuals, you'll find tons of information. I'll give you an example there. The chart kind of gives you details of new cases per day. And this is misleading because not many of us notice. If you look at the y-axis, it is not uniform. 30, 60, 90, and 100 is not 30. Then 130, 160, 190, and 240. difference of 50 and the difference of 10. So deliberately to manipulate the values and give a different meaning. Many people do mislead and give a wrong information. That's not right. So when you do data visualization, one has to be careful the way things are happening. And as a technologist, as an engineer, you'll probably understand the powers and the challenges one has to deal with data visualization. All these three disciplines would basically deal with managing data. And all of us make use of social media. You probably all of them know the symbols. Facebook, almost everybody uses it. WhatsApp, we can't live without it. In fact, it has become de facto. And a lot of people, by the time they sleep, they are on WhatsApp. And the moment you get up, first thing you do is WhatsApp. Then you have Instagram, Twitter, Google Plus, Skype. Skype had lost kinds of value after WhatsApp come in. It's still there. Snapchat, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Telegram is trying to compete with WhatsApp communication, YouTube, WeChat. All these generate data, and a lot of data analytics happens. If we look at today's election campaigns, they focus so much on social media because they want to look at the responses, customers, to do all the analysis, and the governments are won and broken by this data analysis. In fact, one place in, I think, Tunisia, just by one tweet by a fruit vendor, created so much ruckus and chaos in the country, the government got changed. So that is the kind of power these social sites use. And as part of these courses, you'll probably study how to analyze the data that we deal with this. So Joy, maybe you can explain the some work we have done, and then we can go to question and answers. Joy?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll keep this brief. If there are questions, please interrupt. We don't have to run through all the slides we have now.
Yeah, we don't have to.
Yeah. But,
So any questions?
Sir, as of now, there is no any questions. Sir, only one student
Okay.
was asked which course is better for girls.
Okay. I don't think there is any difference between girls and boys. It depends on your interest. To me.
Yeah.
And
Joy, maybe you can comment upon that.
And one more question is, which is the better choice, either AMLI or computer science?
Joy, would you like to take up?
Okay.
Choosing the branch.
Yeah. So I think there is nothing much to choose between it unless one knows your interest. But if one knows your interest, if there is an interest in like Ram said about the soft computing aspects where things are not very clear cut, we try to make sense out of, more sense out of reality, which is an imperfect world where we all change opinions, things change, data is never precise. In that world, if you like to operate, then AIML would be a great choice. That's my opinion.
I mean, if you have good mathematical background, because data science would require better mathematics knowledge than the other subjects. So if you love mathematics and you feel the analytics, the data science would be a better choice for people, or people who are weak in mathematics. I wouldn't recommend data science for them. Let me put it that way. And those who are more tuned to design, look at things, how things look at feel, user experience, the CHD would be a better choice. And those who simply want to get a degree, don't want to experiment with their new niche fields, they can maybe go for typical CSE. I hope that answers. Joy, you can continue.
Yeah. So after I see your comment and you like math, so then that answers the question directly for you. But yeah, since we have put up this screen, let me talk about it a bit. So this is work we do with Vittala Institute of International Institute of Ophthalmology here. It's in Banshankari. So this is I'll keep the shot. This is these are the image on the left is an image capture of a premature baby's eye, and the image on the right is what we have given them after processing it. Okay, so they're looking for certain things, and the blood vessels, how the blood vessels have become more prominent, these and certain other features are what they look for. So this is to do with computer vision. This is work we are doing. But what I want to point out is the data that is printed on top. Sample 647, Dr. Vinay, all that. So the doctors were rating this on 8 different parameters, and these uh, the doctors were rating it on 8 different parameters, and the rating has changes so much after processing. You can see what is kind of marked in red on the right side, right image on top. Number of parameters where the doctor's evaluation changed is 4. So just by processing the image, the doctor is able to make much more sense of what is going in there. And that is this whole idea about processing. Uh, this what I'm talking about is image processing really. But the next step really is, out of all these 8 parameters and data, can we use the known AI ML techniques, or maybe come up with new techniques whereby it can lead to better diagnosis. The last 2 parameters you see here are ROP and PLU. ROP is retinopathy of prematurity, that's the disease, and PLU stands for plus disease. Those are the diseases the doctors are trying to catch. And by the way, if this disease is not caught within a week, 10 days, the baby goes blind. Okay, so that's the seriousness of this. And these are places where we can make contributions, and we at KSIT do some work in these areas. So these are opportunities for people who will be, with us. Ram, next slide.
Yeah.
Okay, this is another very interesting aspect, and in some ways it was premature work, or not premature. This is work which didn't complete. Some of my students, we did some work, and then or they did some work, and then they graduated and left, and it remained like this. But what is so interesting about this data is the red line you see, the red trend line you see in the middle, is the search for asthma, the word asthma in Google. Okay, in from the Karnataka region. The the line on top is how humidity varies in Karnataka, and the line on bottom is how temperature varies. The line at the bottom is how temperature varies. So we see that the asthma searches go up when humidity is high, and temperature is low. And like Ram said earlier, this is not an exact science. It is kind of matching. Some places it doesn't match. There are other differences happening. And an asthma search, we were trying to correlate with actual occurrence of asthma. An asthma search doesn't need to mean there was asthma. Or maybe, asthma happened 2 weeks earlier, and then people, when they got well, they started searching. So this is that soft and fuzzy nature of data we'll be working with. If you're working in if you're into data mining, data sciences, aspects of ML. But this is a good area where we are trying to make sense out of these different things which are available. Uh, yeah, Ram, next one. So this is something we work with a startup called Axia, and the work we do. So we do different things with them, but one of the things they are into is, or they're trying to get into, they're a relatively small company. Many companies trying to get into autonomous driving, and in autonomous driving, one of the aspects that come is, how does a car see a road and understand what is there on the road. So we are contributing in terms of image processing, and that's what you see. This is an edge detection algorithm. Yeah, Ram, next slide. Yeah, Ram, next slide. Yeah, this is a slide some of our teachers were working on from the CS department. This is again in the autonomous driving field, but it is to do with lane detection. Again, if a car is going if a driverless car is going down a road, it needs to know where the lanes are. How do you detect lanes? And that's what this example is, and this is what our teachers are working on. Next one, Ram. Ram, you want to talk about this?
Okay, I can talk about. So this is the again work done by the students, our students, and our focus has been, can we solve real life problem? So one of the students' parents is visually challenged and has tough time reading the book, can't read. So the student wanted to design that given a physical book, how does my father read that book? So focus was, you build a scanner, reader, turner, which will automatically open the book, turn the pages, scan it, read the text, convert into digital text, and then you start playing as an audio book. And that is what the work done. So first was you basically take the picture, turn the pages one at a time. And if picture taken is clear, you do the character recognition. And with OCR, as you can see, you are almost able to get 97% accuracy. At the same time, if picture was not taken correctly, book was tilted, or as you can see in this, characters are not very straightforward. And the same OCR doesn't give you good character recognition, and error rates are much higher. So challenges lies, how do we deal with this kind of scenario and how do we improve upon our character recognition? This is the one work done, and for this work, we even got funding or grant from KSIT from Karnataka government as well. Other, as Joy said, that asthma, I consulted with a company, PAQS, and companies was formed by with one incident related to asthma.
Ram, are you running out of power, battery? Do you need to charge?
Just give me a minute. Give me a minute.
So I hope there are a few more questions. At least we can take up discussion in any direction. If we know what you ask.
Thank you, Joy.
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, you are audible, Ram.
Okay. So basically, daughter of friend of the founder was traveling and she didn't know how the air pollution was at the destination. And by the time she traveled, it was such a severe asthma attack that she couldn't even survive. That disturbed the founder of this company so much that can you build something to detect air pollution and maybe personal air care devices so that we can forewarn the users or travelers. Let's say I'm going from Kanakpura Road to NG Road. Are there spots in the middle which could have a severe pollution, which could impact my asthma, so that I could be forewarned and then I can be prepared with extra salt or extra inhaler or whatever so that I can survive. And that kind of company we're basically dealing with, and that's why I'm consulting with. Coming to the same thing, we look at this computer science and design. Joe, I'll take over maybe, then we can do the question answers. If we look at Google, upper left corner, upper left half, you see Google. That was 2020 years ago. And today, what we see Google today. And any special occasion, you probably see a doodle highlighting or recognizing or acknowledging the personality, and that is all aspect of design. In fact, Google is so particular about this that even a minor change, even a font change or a small space change or letter change requires approval at the very, very highest level. Design has become so important, and that's what I'm talk about. So primarily, this is what we intended to cover in our talk. So anybody like to have any questions, you are open, please feel free, and we'll be trying to answer to our best knowledge.
By the way, I hope you realize this is at least some of you realize this is GSLV launch from Sriharikota, one of the successful launches. And below is an example of edge detection.
So if there are no questions, then we probably, Sunil, do we wind up?
There
or
are
do we
no
continue?
any questions in the chat box. There's the only question, sir. AI and ML BE difficult, and how do we know about we are eligible to take the course?
Can you repeat?
AI ML subject is difficult, and how do we know that we are eligible to take the course?
Joy, would you like to answer?
Sunil, can you repeat the question?
Student is asking AML is a difficult course, and are they eligible? How do they get to know they are eligible to take this course?
Yeah, so some level of math competency would be required. Otherwise they would struggle on some of the AIML related subjects which come up. And this is the second thing I'm going to say is really more of hygiene, and it's good for everybody, including physics, is if we some amount of aptitude for programming. I'm not even saying programming skills. Some amount of aptitude for programming. It could be tool based, it could be whatever, but expressing things in a logical manner and deriving things out of that. So if these two skills are there, I wouldn't tell anybody to not try it if they feel interested in the problems the field works on. Sunil?
I mean, I would say is if you have an attitude and inclination to work and you love to play with data, look at the way things work out in future, probably not be that hard. It needs some amount of commitment and willingness to work hard. That's all I can say.
That's all. So there is no more any questions, sir.
So we are 1 hour done. So then we can wind up possibly. Or anything you want to talk about? Maybe I'll probably ask one question, seek your comment, which people do talk to me about the ethics and privacy issue. I'll probably highlight an incident that happened quite some time ago. Target store in US, which is basically super merchandise store like our Big Bazaar, or you can say Trent, or any name you take it. They sent coupons to a young girl, pregnancy-related coupons and new clothes for a small newborn child. And there's a physical mail, they got a lot of coupons there. Father received those and looked at it and said, why they are trying to send this material to my child, my daughter, who is not even married? And he went to the store, shouted at the store manager, what is this nonsense? The store manager probably said, sorry, sir, may I have mistaken something. But what really has happened is, it was true, girl was pregnant, and that father came, apologized later. But what Target has done, they have identified the 25 items which people buy. And based on their buying pattern, they could identify that whether a woman who's buying things is going to that state or not. Now, did Target violate privacy, or is it ethical? I don't know. Where do we stand? Any comments you would like to do, John, on that? Then we can close.
Yeah. So I think ethics and also this loss of power over so many things which we thought belonged to us has now become a reality. If Google wants, Google can destroy lives. Google can do so many things. It has so much information, and just based on, or for that matter, Facebook or any of them, they're all there's so much data. So what they do with it, who they sell it to, a Google or a Facebook can claim they're not selling it, but there are other people selling it. So the line has become very difficult to draw, is what I feel. One thing we should at least understand is the fact that we are giving away a lot of our data without bothering about it. We click on anything, we sign off on anything, we accept any conditions they put up without reading the conditions. So we are giving up on a lot of things, and the consequences are very real in the sense uh, uh, things have gone so out of our control. People can, when somebody is powerful enough to influence Google, they can get so much information about an individual that they can destroy the individual. And it doesn't have to be that the individual is doing something illegal. Even otherwise, so much can happen. So yes, these are new questions, new problems, and we are Ram and I have reached a stage where it doesn't matter that much to us, but you younger people are going to deal with it much more because
No, I think.
let me just give so in 1990 I used to somewhere in the 90s I used to work on a project on set-top boxes when digital TV was just coming in. So it was a big thing that they could upgrade a set-top box sitting in somebody's house over the air. That is satellite download. That is a big thing because in effect, what is happening is something is sitting in your house and that is changing its nature without you even knowing. That was considered a big thing. But today we all accept it and it keeps happening to everything. Our phone gets upgraded, our computer gets upgraded, our infrastructure is getting upgraded in the sense network. So many things are happening. Do we know where all our data is getting stored? We log in, we do so many things. So yes, uh, privacy has gone for a toss. A lot of unethical things also happening. Ram, you were saying something.
No, I was saying, I mean, when Gmail started, I did not sign up for Gmail for 2 years because the license says they will look at my emails and give me appropriate ad contents. But at the end, I figured out they're giving me too many gigabytes of data available, which others were not giving. I said, what will do my privacy? I probably signed up. So anybody who signs up free Gmail, they're saying our privacy doesn't matter. So I think it's the individual choice to figure out what you're willing to pay and what you're willing to get. So it's a conscious decision by individuals rather than just simply saying, hey, you did that too. Sunil, maybe you can comment or we can then close down.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. This was a very wonderful session, sir. I hope all the audience have also reached that whatever the courses that we are mentioned and we are offering for this particular academic year for 2020 and 2021. The emerging course, emerging technologies that what a BE courses is offering. So this is way that we have an opening, and this is how that you are going to get explored. I hope the questions whichever has been raised from the participants, I think we have clarified. And I would like to thank Ram Rastogi sir and Joy Prabhakaran sir for this wonderful speech, and also giving this occasion from a Kamavari Sangam group of institutions. Also, I would like to thank our President Rajgopal Naidu sir and our Secretary Leela Shankar Rao sir and our Treasurer Mir Jakshu and CEO of KS Group of Institutions KVA Balaji and a Principal Dilip Kumar sir and a principal from KSIT Ram Narasimha sir and all the HODs and faculty members supporting for this staff for this particular webinar and all the participants. I'd like to thank for this today's session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you all, sir.
Thanks, everybody.
And we have the email. If at all you have any clarifications or any doubts, so you can mail to this particular email ID, that is sunilkumarn@ksit.edu.in. So you get the responses very soon. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All of you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, sir. It was a very wonderful session. Thank you, sir.